to drop me off the call, so I'm going to re-call in just so I can record.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Actually, wait, never mind. I can't actually do the recording. I think it started already. All right. Well, I'm going to be sharing my screen. Yeah, well, I guess first, yeah, thank you everyone for calling in. I got a couple of introductions already. I saw there's Aaron and there's Danielle and Ashley, and then I'm getting Ed. Who else do we have on the call? Seeing Hank Zhu is signed in. I don't know if he's on audio right now. So I think that's, oh, yep, Hank is saying he's listening, so that's great. And then, so just in person, it's just myself, Sam, and then Maureen.
Hi.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start it off, and maybe if one or two more people dial in, we can go from there. But to start off, we got, I'll be sharing my screen. If people can confirm, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Cool. All right, and I got a yes from Hank as well. All right, so thank you. So we're doing the multi-factor authentication, and this is the pilot. We want to just do a quick training on this. So we have myself, Sam. I'm one of the resources supporting this, but the primary support is really Intivix. So we have Ed from Intivix on the call as well. So I was just going to quickly introduce a multi. If someone could actually put their thing on mute, I'm getting a lot of background. Yeah, I'm hearing some background noise.
Aaron.
Let me, 1 second.
Okay, that's much better. Great, thank you. So I'm just introducing, we're going to be doing multi-factor authentication, so I'll just start it off when my screen decides to go. Okay, so our main agenda, so just I wanted to show why we're doing multi-factor, and then just with you guys all as the pilot testers, what we're expecting, and then just quickly just what Duo Security is. This is our tool that we're using for multi-factor, and then just what it will look like for logging into the remote desktop. So the first thing is multi-factor authentication. So what multi-factor does is it increases security by having a second form of identification used when you are logging in. So typically right now we just have username and password, but we are going to have a second layer. And so this is going to be completed through our Duo Security application. And so this usually incorporates having a token or putting in a one-time code or authenticating through the phone. And so we will be describing what that looks like. And so the first thing is why we're doing MFA is that we have a much better security. And so this will be able to prevent many types of fraudulent activities when someone's able to gain access to a passcode and a password, for instance, with phishing. And so this is part of just our obligation to be on top of cybersecurity protocols. IOA as a company has been pretty good about it, and we are trying to stay in the forefront on this. And also just one of the things is by doing multi-factor, it also means we don't need to have a crazy 25-digit passcode that you have to reset every 30 days. You know, it actually does make it easier in certain regards. And then just on the right, we're just pointing out this is sort of the multi-factor screen that pops up. So just to give a little quick showing of what it looks like. And so you guys don't need to read all these details, but how will it impact you guys at IOA? So this is going to be for the remote access for you guys in the pilot testing program. If someone could put their microphone on mute, please. We're getting a lot of background noise. And then, all right, and then, so how will this impact you? So this is, to start off, this pilot program is for the remote desktop. So we know that you've all been identified as users of the remote desktop. And so this is going to be basically the typical ts.io aging is instead going to be redirected to our new RDS RDS is in remote desktop, and it will be redirected for the multi-factor authentication setup. And then after this pilot program is over, we are actually going to be launching this to the whole agency. And so this is going to be both for the remote desktop, and then in the future, it's also going to be impacting when you're accessing your Outlook, for instance, for 365, if you're trying to access your email remotely, and then also even beyond that, just for when we're logging into normal computer systems. And so for this training, I just wanted to handle a quick training, just showing what it looks like, but then we're also going to be divvying out materials that will be sort of step-by-step guides with a lot of screenshots that can hopefully be helpful. And then really the big thing I want to drive home is this is a pilot program. There might be issues that pop up. So if you get anything, please submit a ticket to Intivix. And Intivix has been, all of the support staff know that this is a high priority item. So it's not going to be submit a ticket and I guess I can't get into my system for the next 2 days. It's going to be an escalated item, but we do want to make sure that if anything at all pops up, that you guys report it out. So give a phone call to Intivix or send an email, just so that we can track this, and this will inform the rest of our usage at the agency. Okay, yes, and so I just got the question, when will this be launched? So I will ask, let's try and hold off on too many questions till the end, but that is actually the next slide. So you beat me to the punch on the question. So what we are doing, we are going to be switching this on Friday. And so we're going to do a little bit of a softer start on this, we're eventually going to have the remote desktop that it redirects. So normally the TSIO aging would redirect to the new link. But off the start, just because it's over the weekend, if someone's working, that there might be a little bit of a gap time where if they're having trouble with the remote desktop, the new one for multi-factor, that they can still access TSIO aging. And so again, driving home that we want you guys to speak up on all issues. So we've actually already been pilot user testing. So now this group that's on the call is sort of the second phase of this pilot. So we've already started with this amongst the IT team and then a few other key individuals. And so just highlighting the dates, this pilot user testing ends on the 23rd of April. And then we are going to be doing enterprise training. So that's across the whole agency. In May. So we have those tentative dates set, the 8th, the 10th, the 14th, and the 17th. For the people on this call, I think you guys will already be pretty much versed on this, but we still will want people to attend enterprise training because there might be some changes. And then ultimately we have our Project Go Live. We are doing that at the end of May as well as on June 13th. So for the TSIO aging, that means the whole agency is going to be going to a new remote desktop, which doesn't use multi-factor, will be redirecting there. All right. And then ultimately, later on in June, we are going to be doing more multi-factor for the desktop and laptop experience. But for right now, your team is focused just on remote desktop. So, quickly, so Duo security. So Duo is what we're using for multi-factor. And so another term you might have heard before is two-step verification. That's a similar boat. It's just, you're more than just a username and a password. And so what happens is after the username and password is used for logging into the remote desktop, Duo is going to then pop up. And so there's basically three choices, and we really are going to just drive home the two, which is Duo Push. That's a mobile phone application, and that's the one that we recommend. And honestly, that's the most seamless one. I've been testing it for several months now, and I've actually used it in a previous agency. So this just sends a quick notification to your phone, and you just press, yes, I accept. That's all it takes. But there's a little bit of a setup that I can walk through in just the next coming slide. Then the other one, there's a call me feature, where you would get a phone call on the number that you identify, and they just ask you, hey, do you accept this login? Please press 5 or whatever they indicate on the phone call to accept the login. And then the last is either a passcode or a key token. This is something that Intivix would have to individually support, so we don't want to, we really don't want to test that one out too much. This would just be for special use cases, but it is an option in the future. But for right now, we're going to have both of you, or this whole team, focus on Duo Push and Call Me. So moving along, so Duo Push. As I said, this is the recommended method, and so I've got the screenshots on the right, both for Apple and for Android. It's a little small, you don't need to read it, but basically what happens is the top images are when after you enter in your first password and username, and then you say, hey, send me a Duo Push, you get a notification from Duo Mobile, and it'll say login request. And then so you can click on that, and then the next screen, the bottom right images, are what appears on the application. And it just says, hey, this email address is trying to log in, this is the location, and this is the time when they try to log in. Do you approve this or do you deny this? And then obviously if it's a legitimate one, you just say approve, and then it quickly just gets you into the system. And wow, so then
pretty simple.
Yeah, it's, we try to make it as simple as possible. And then the next one, just outlining with the Call Me one. And I'm going to go into the steps on setting these ones up after just the outline. So the Call Me feature is where you set up, you put in your phone number, and then you first get this is sort of the verification of the phone number where it sends you a call or a text. And then you have to put in a 6-digit code. After that first initial setup, what's going to happen with Duo Call Me is when you try and log in and you say, hey, send me a Call Me, it'll just quickly give you a phone call and it'll say, hey, do you accept this login attempt? Press 5 or whatever number they give you. And it's just a similar process, but it does require you answering your phone. So that's one of the reasons why we would recommend using the mobile application. Right, so that's the outline of the two primary ways of doing the multi-factor. We do have a last one that we don't want to emphasize. That would be a security key or a passcode. And so this would be only in a situation where you're unavailable to use Push or Call Me. So please, if there is that circumstance, let us know, and we can individually look at it. But this would be potentially where we have a key code that you either plug into your laptop and then you press the button, or it would basically generate a one-time passcode. And so this would be something, just reach out to the Intivix team if that's needed. But again, it won't be our primary method. All right. So I guess before I dive into the step-by-step, are there any quick questions, comments on what I just sort of outlined? All right. Everyone can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Great. Okay, cool. And so I was going to go through the step-by-step. This is something we are going to be handing out to all the users as well. And so the big thing I will just start with is, I'm hoping, does everyone have a smartphone that they can install an application on? Getting a yes.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yes.
no Amish people in the group? All right. Well, that's where we do want to make this work for all members of the agency, but definitely installing a smartphone app is great. So if you guys want to walk through this while I show the setup, you guys can download the Duo mobile app. but no worries, you can do this afterwards as well. We don't need to do a live, everyone do it right now. That'd be a little bit too crazy. Instead, I would just recommend follow the step-by-step guide, which we will provide after this training. So the first thing, let's just install the Duo mobile app. So that's go to either the iOS or the Android store. If someone has a Windows phone, they do have that as well, but we don't really support Windows phones, but it should work in theory. We just don't know of anyone who actually has one. And then, so after it's done, then you will, and if you're only going to use the Call Me one, then you don't need to download it, obviously. But for this training, let's say you will download the application. And so once we've rolled this training out after on the 15th, which is this Friday, you will be directed to our new remote desktop, which is rds.ioaging.org/rdweb. It will be printed out and emailed to you, so you don't need to write it down or remember it. Yes. And so one of the things is we do recommend it on Internet Explorer. It does work with all of the browsers. And so for some of you who have used Procura, this remote desktop resource screen that we have on the right will be familiar to you. This is just a way to get into just the Microsoft remote system. So from here, you just enter in your normal email and your password that you do to sign into your computer. And then after that, you will be prompted so that first login was the first factor. The second one is the Duo multi-factor. And so that's the second login. So on the first time you log in, you will be prompted to say, hey, you need to set up a device. So you just press start your setup, and then you'll be given the option of mobile phone, tablet, landline, and we actually have disabled the security key on this one because this has to be really only supported on a one-off item. But for this part of it, we're going to say mobile phone. A few slides later, I'll show you what the landline option is. Landline actually means any phone call. So that's just the way that Duo calls it. But if you're expecting to get a phone call, it will be by clicking on landline. So you click on mobile phone to do the Duo setup, and then you verify your phone number, and so you just press continue. And then it will ask you what operating system you have, and so that's where you pick iPhone or Android. By this time, you should have already downloaded the mobile application. So it's just going to say, hey, have you already downloaded Duo? If you haven't, then you got to do it before you can progress further. Otherwise, if you can't, then you have to go back and do the landline setup, which I will show those steps after this. So you say, yes, I have Duo Mobile installed, and then you're going to bring up your mobile phone, the mobile device, and it's going to potentially ask you for if you want to get notifications. You want to allow these notifications, and it would pop up saying, hey, you have a login attempt. So always allow that, and it doesn't spam you or anything. It only pops up when you're using it. And then after in the login process on your computer, you're going to be brought to this screen in the top right where it says activate Duo Mobile, and it will say for either Android or iOS, and it will have a QR code. And so on this QR code, that's one of those items that you scan. And so in the mobile application, it's going to say, hey, you need to activate with an account, and it will bring up your camera to then scan the QR code. And so you will need to give it permission if your phone is saying, hey, do you want to give it permission? But from scanning the QR code, you just point your camera at the screen that shows the little code, and it will then give a little green check mark. It happens instantly. It's really a seamless system. And just from there, you're enrolled. Your device is now synced up with your mobile, with your MFA profile. So from there, that means you're good to go. And the bottom right code where it says 446305, that's basically just saying, hey, yes, your device is set up. You're good to go. So then after you've done that, you really just have to just finalize. So it's already linked and it's synced up. and then you basically just pick on your computer screen every time you log in what your preference will be. I recommend you have the options of either saying you always do a Duo push, you always do a phone call, or that it asks you what you want to do each time. That's where I would recommend ask me to choose an authentication method. That's the default. So when you do that, then this is the screen that you will see every time you try and log into the remote desktop. And it will just say, hey, send me a push, call me, or enter a passcode. And so this screen right here, it won't always say enrollment successful, but that is the default screen that you will get every time, and you are all good and set up for Duo security on your mobile phone using it for multi-factor.
I have a question. You guys time for a question or wait till later?
Go ahead.
I joined the conference a little late, and you might have said this already, so I apologize if you did, but are these slides going to be available to people like me who are dialing in to this presentation?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, so we are going to be handing out materials that are step-by-steps how to get all of these items set up, and I will also be sharing the slides. So the slides are similar to the step-by-step guide. Probably the step-by-step guide is a little bit more in depth, so just whatever works for you. But yeah, we will be handing these out to the pilot team. Right. So, and I'll move along, and then we'll be getting close to questions after this. So I was just going to show them the phone call option. So say you can't install a mobile application. When you are adding your original setup, you would just pick landline. And again, landline is any type of phone call. So even if you're using a cell phone, you will pick landline. And all it does is it asks you for a phone number, and then they call that phone number, or you can choose to text that phone number with the 6-digit code. You enter that code into the mobile or the Duo mobile or Duo security system, and then you're good to go and you're linked, so that in the future, then from your computer, you try and log in and you say, hey, call me. They'll give you a call on the phone number you entered, and then you just say, hey, yes, I accept this, and then you're good to go. So that's just the setup items I was going to outline. You guys will get handouts, so don't worry if you miss something. You'll have handouts on how to do it. And again, Intivix can support you as this process begins. If you get lost, give a phone call to Intivix or shoot an email, and then someone can help you out on it. And of course, let us know if you come into any problems. And then, so I wanted to show, so part of the update for our remote desktop environment is we are also upgrading to Windows 10. So for those of you who use remote desktop, you guys will sort of notice that it is a older Windows 7 version, and it's a basic screen. So the one on the left, instead, it's going to be on the right, and there will be significantly more support items for what you've got in the system. So you'll be able to access Office 365 resources, and it's just in general a better supported operating system. We, as an agency, are wanting everyone on Windows 10.
You mentioned Explorer. You mentioned Explorer a couple times. Does this work equally well on Chrome?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And so we are going to send, again, these are the items for testing I'm showing. Basically, we have a checklist of items. Really, it's about how are your business use cases being addressed. So we want to see your everyday business cases. What we outlined was just the basics of saying, hey, can you open up a Word document? Can you access your Y-Drive? Can you get into your email? Those type of items. So we will hand out sort of the items for testing, but really what we want to do is see actual practical applications. So just let us know if anything pops up, you know, hey, I normally work on this type of file type and it's not running correctly. We want to know that so we can support it in the future. And then, so that's our quick introduction on what we're doing. We will be providing these resources to everyone. So the biggest thing is that we are staying up with the times, and we as an agency are taking our cybersecurity seriously, and multi-factor is a big part of that. And so this is something that the whole agency will be doing, But for right now, you guys as the pilot testers are hugely appreciated. Thank you for taking your time to be part of this training and also part of the pilot testing. And please just let us know if anything is popping up while you use it. So that leaves a few minutes for questions or concerns. If someone has to drop off for another meeting or call, feel free. I did want to just gather who all called in. I've written down Aaron, Danielle, Ashley, Ed. I think I heard, yeah, Ed and Maureen. Who else has called in? I've got, we had
Jerry Walls.
Yes, and we have Hank as well. So Jerry and Hank.
B. McGee.
Okay, indeed. There was a whole group of Irene. Okay, thank you. There's a group from Inland Empire. Were there other people that had called in on that? I saw a list of about 3 or 4 names that were going to attend.
Well, I'm from Inland. V is from Inland, yeah.
Okay. Just you, though? I saw there's, like, I think a few other ones. Maybe they'll join in on the next
Yeah.
one.
I was also wondering, can I do it again as well? Can I join in again as well? Okay.
Yeah. So if you didn't catch everything, we are doing a training tomorrow at 1:30. So I've invited everyone. If you do need it to be resent to you, please message me, and I can resend that invitation. Otherwise, are there any questions or concerns? We're launching this very rapidly. So thank you everyone for being part of this.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, and thank you, Ed. Ed really has been the mastermind who has done so much work on this and done so much support already in our pilot program. So a big thank you to Ed and the Intivix team for their continued support.
Thank you, Sam. Well done.
All right. Well, okay. Well, thank you. If there's no other questions or concerns, I will end this meeting, and I will maybe talk to some of you again tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Great. Right. Bye.
You know I'm Maureen.